here at PSA Book Room. And I'm also going to start live on Facebook.
Ooh, fancy.
All right, Jen, over to you.
We just figured out Facebook Live, so we're excited about that. So good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining the Let's Tech Luxury Call. We meet every first Wednesday. So our next call is February 1st. Crazy already. Happy New Year. It goes by fast. The objective of our call is to connect luxury-focused agents with luxury industry leaders. So today we have a fantastic guest. There's three hosts of this call. I'm Jennifer Scales. I'm in Tampa. Anjali Gill is also in Tampa, and Jason Smith down in Miami, South Florida. So if you received an invitation to the call, then you will continue to receive invitations. If you didn't, just look in the chat box. I'll give you instructions on how to sign up for future invitations. And I'll put the link to our YouTube channel, which is where we post our videos. And I think many of you found our Facebook group that we just opened. So thanks for finding us there. And if you haven't, again, all of this will be in the chat. So today we have a terrific guest kicking off the new year with us. And I will let Anjali do the introductions and we'll get started.
Thanks, Jen. And it is my pleasure and honor to introduce Lesli, who I'm sure all of you know. I mean, who doesn't know Lesli? I've got such a long bio of hers, all the things that she has done and accomplished. She's been the Hall of Fame leader of one of the largest, most profitable real estate offices for 9 years. She's the past president of Keller Williams Luxury International. And right now she is with Lucido Global, and she has joined leadership as their strategic growth advisor. Oh, it is such an honor and a privilege to have you here today with us, talking and teaching us how to sell to the disc. Now, I'm sure all of us have heard of this before, but it's always great to start the new year with a refresher on the basics. So, Lesli, without further ado, I hand it over to you and let the learning begin.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jason. And what an honor and pleasure to be here on behalf of Lucido Global. And, you know, I think that we're here and we're hearing so much about, let's get back to the basics, right? Let's get back to the basics, going through those daily activities, being mindful of all those things. And quite frankly, some of us have been in this business a very long time at a very high level. Some of us have been in this business a short time at a very high level. So there's all different levels of experience, and getting back to the basics can look very different to everybody, right? And so we're hearing that a lot, and we're hearing and if I'm yelling, tell me. All right, that's another behavior style, by the way. But if you're hearing what we need to do, I think there needs to be some things that we actually spell out. We understand we need to get back to the basics. What are they? We need to double down on our database. Great. What does that look like? What are some of the most effective ways to do that? And so in one of our team meetings with Lucido Global, we were talking about some of these things. And I started mentioning some of the behavior styles and how to communicate based on that, because right now, how you communicate is imperative for your success. It is so important right now how you're communicating. And so let's dig back into the basics of DISC. And let me just say this as a disclaimer. Has anyone not heard of the DISC? You can raise your hand or put your hand up on the screen, or y'all can tell me if anybody raised their hand. All right, here's the thing. The DISC does not replace the KPA. The KPA, which was made for Keller Williams, is actually, that is a behavior study that looks not only at your personality style, your behavior style, but also how you think. So that is a different test. That is much more in depth. The DISC is a quick overview, and what we're going to talk about today is a reminder of the different personality styles, the behavior traits, of these different styles. And again, I know this is a review, but I want us to look at this a little different. So let's review what they are, and you can find out more about DISC. Tony Robbins has a great DISC profile. I know Mike Ferry for days did DISC profile. We have DISC profiles at your market center. You can ask your team leader for that. And at Lucido Global, we actually have one that we put together. And if you'd like a copy of that, let me know and we can send that out to you. But it's just a great touch point of reminders, okay? And here's the last thing I want to say about DISC. There is not a DISC profile that's better than the other, okay? There's, whether you are a D, whether you are an I, an S, or a C, or all of the above. By the way, most of us have a little bit of all of them, okay? Some people don't. It's kind of interesting when you see that. But most people have a little bit of all of them, but you're going to have some dominant traits. None of these are a precursor to how successful you're going to be. Okay, so this is, don't attach anything to it. For years, I saw people using the excuse of being a high D to be rude, and it's not an excuse to be rude. So let's take some of this with a grain of salt. You are wonderful, you, no matter what your behavior style is. So when you're listening to this, let's go back and think about, who are you? What is your behavior style? Because listen, without that self-awareness, it's going to be hard to be aware of the person in front of you. Okay. And how you relate to that person, you may have to adjust your style to fit their behavior style. So first and foremost, let's get real clear on what yours is. Okay. Otherwise, you might drive certain, I know I would, drive certain behavior styles crazy if I wasn't aware of it. Okay, so let's dig in. DISC. I like to think of the different DISC profiles. D, I've heard different things. I've heard driver. I've heard dominant, right? It's a dominant behavior style. It's a driver. That's your D personalities. And when you think of Ds, I want you to think of, that's the person in the room that's going to ask what, right? Just keep that in mind. They're thinking what? What is this about? What am I going to do? Their key word is what, right? And let me kind of go down. And I love this. Lucido Global put these more in where you can remember these words based on the actual D. And then the next one will be a description of all I words. So your D's: dominant, direct, demanding, decisive, determined, and a doer. That's your D. They're the driver. And they're asking what? Your I is an influencer. Okay, it's an influencer. Their word would be who. They're not as concerned with what we're doing. They're more concerned with who's going to be there. Okay, who. They are inspiring, influencing, impressionable, interactive, interested in people, and impressive. Okay, these are your more flamboyant people. I wish you could see the back of this crocodile chair. It's got zebra skin, okay? So it's, you know, and again,
that is so you, Leslie.
What was that, Ashley?
I said that is so you, perfect.
Yeah. So I don't have any animal trophies on my wall, so I promise you. That is your I personality. And again, they're saying who. The S is going to be your stable, secure, supportive, steady, sweet, status quo, shy. These are kind of just keywords that you think about with an S. Okay. Your S's are your predominant. Now, we've got two different populations we're going to be addressing. Us as realtors, okay? I want you to put on, after you get out of self-awareness, I want you to put back on the hat of the consumer that's in front of you. The consumer that's in front of you. The majority of the consumers you will come in contact with are S's. Okay, they are the bulk. That is the most common behavior style you will be coming in contact with. C, your C personalities are conscientious, correct. This is your analytical personality, okay? Cautious, calculating, competent, conscientious, contemplative, careful. The one that sticks out most to me for our wonderful C's is their correctness, okay? They are highly successful at being information gatherers. But the information needs to be correct, or you, as the deliverer of that information, will lose all validity with the C. Okay, they're all about correctness. Okay, so let me go over a few more things.
Leslie, sorry to interrupt real quickly. Sorry, what questions does the S and the C ask, if any?
So I'm sorry, the S is asking why.
Why? Okay, gotcha.
Why
Thank you.
would I want to do that? Why do I need to do that? Why should I consider that? Why would I want to go there? Why would I want to move? Why would I want to sell my house? Why would I want to buy a house? Right?
Mhm.
Who is asking how?
C.
C.
C. Correct. I need to know how. I need the info. How are we going to do this? If you ask me to go to this event, how am I getting there? How will this play out? What's the game plan at the party? Right? So think back on that. And some key things when you think about these folks. Let me go back to D again. These are just a few highlights. So let me kind of dig in. Okay. When you think about your DISC personalities, okay, your I's and your S's are people oriented. They're relational. And again, let me back up and say, it doesn't mean that your D's and C's aren't. These are their predominant behavior styles, okay? And remember, we all have a little bit of everything for the most part mixed in, okay? At least two mixed in. But your I's and your S's are going to be the most people-oriented and high touch, okay? They're about relationships. They care. Not that your D's don't, but this is a predominant behavior trait. Very caring. They love to share. There's more emotions involved in working with an I and an S, and they share more emotion working with you. There's more feelings involved, and they tend to build more friendships because it's important to them. All right. Now, when you look at your D and your C behavior styles, it's more process oriented. It's very task oriented. More high tech versus high touch. All right. Much more about forms, much more about function, much more about a program. What does your program look like? About your plan, right? What's our plan moving forward? Projects. They love projects because guess what they get to do? Plan them, okay? The process is important, and they're very bottom line oriented. Now this is interesting. Your S's are also information gatherers. See, sometimes we get S's and C's mixed up. Your S's are going to be information gatherers. And I know we're not doing Q&A yet, but here's why. So you would ask yourself, I wonder why. Remember, your S's are stable and steady, and they're not quick to make a decision. They're very slow to make a decision. So they're an information gatherer to figure out their main question of why. Okay? So they're really going to mull it over. Your C's are an information gatherer because it's important to them to have all the facts to know how to proceed. Okay? So theirs is about being correct and understanding the how. And they're very factual based, very fact based. All right, so I like to point that out. When you look at this, you'll find now your similarities between your D's and your I's, your similarities between your D's, your drivers, your dominants, and your influencers. They're both go-getters, go-getter personalities, very involved. They're fast-paced. They're optimistic. They're energetic. They're positive. And they're enthusiastic. Okay? Your S's and C's are more reserved. It's a little more passive versus active. They're going to go at a slower pace. And doesn't that make sense? They're gathering, they're evaluating, mulling over, right? They're cautious. They're concerned about the decisions. I mean, really concerned about everything you're telling them. Reluctant. By the way, S's, their biggest thing that they dislike more than anything is change. Okay. They are critical thinkers. That's why they're information gatherers. And they're discerning. So this is interesting to me. A D and a C can show up a lot alike. When a C is in their comfort zone, when they're in their zone and they are just in flow, right? They're on, they're just full on, and they're nailing whatever they're doing. You will see them functioning like a D. It's sometimes hard to tell them apart, okay? So I think the more we start really thinking through these behavior styles, we're going to start looking at our word choice, how we approach them. I mean, there's so many things here, okay? I mean, I could go for an hour on each one of these because to me it's fascinating, right? So I'm not going to do that. So let me break down a few more things on these personality styles. And I don't want to beat a dead horse over the head, so I won't spend too much more time on it. Let's talk about the D type real quick. So when they're doing something, they want to do it their way, right? We're going to do this my way. You can think of them like that. So remember, their key word is what? What's the benefit to me? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can you meet with me Wednesday at 10 o'clock? And they're wondering, well, what is the benefit to me, right? Because one of their greatest fears of a D is you wasting their time. A D is very protective of their time, number one, and two, they don't want to be taken advantage of. That's actually their greatest fears, are being taken advantage of and their time being wasted. Their basic needs are a good challenge, control, and choices. When I think of a D, I think of more of a personality type of ready, fire, aim, because they are ready to get it on, right? When they goal set, they love something challenging. And I'm telling you all of this so that when that potential seller is in front of you and you've identified that they're a D, this will help you in your approach. Okay, in your approach. And that's my next piece I want to go into. D's love new ideas, being the boss, results. Here's what they don't like. I think this is important. What a D doesn't like. By the way, all of us as real estate professionals and advisors and consultants, this is so important with the agent on the other side of the transaction, right? If you're negotiating with a D, you don't need to approach it like a C. If you're the C and they're the D, you're gonna have to reel back some of your info and get used to bullet points. Same thing with us I's. By the way, I'm a high I, high D. The equivalent, I do have S, I have no C. So that self-awareness is interesting. D types do not like indecision. When you're delivering that information to a seller and they're asking you point blank questions based on the information you're giving them, do not be indecisive when you deliver that message. Okay? They do not care for lazy people. Because remember, they're get it done, get it done, get it done. Let's go, 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 go. Right? They're a doer and we're going to do it their way. So don't be lazy. They don't like details. They're really not into the details. Remember, ready, fire, aim. They really don't like taking orders. And you won't find them very often around slow moving people. They like people that have a fast pace. So what do they want? They want you to be quick. They want you to get to the point. They want you to be specific and they want you to help them win. Right? So then what we've got to find out is, what does winning look like to that individual? Right? And so that's the other thing. This is going to lead to a much better analysis. Buyer and seller. Needs analysis. This should be driving your needs analysis. A common phrase of a D personality is, let's just get it done. Right? So what do they look like? Okay, so a D personality, when they are in flow, they're courageous. And I'll run through this quicker. They're courageous. They're quick to respond. They're goal-oriented. They're results-oriented, right? I want to get this price, this fast, and if you accomplish that, we're golden, right? They're bottom line. I hope we're friends at the end of the transaction, but guess what? They're not hiring you to be their new friend, just so you know. And that's okay. That's okay. Hopefully that will evolve in the process, right? They're very deliberate. They're self-confident. They're direct. They're self-reliant. They're straightforward. And my favorite, they're competitive. They want to win. Now, when someone's not in control of their behavior style, it's typically stress-induced. So figuring out the triggers for stress, we know that the top three are what? Moving, divorce, and typically the home selling process, right? So we get to see people that are very wonderful people at their best, and then we get to see the wonderful people in their worst behavior too sometimes. But it doesn't make them bad people, I don't think. Sometimes, but very rarely. Okay, so here's what it would look like under stress with that same D client. Instead of being courageous, they're reckless. Sometimes they might say something to you that they really regret saying, because they'll be reckless with their words. They can also be reckless with a counter. Remember, you're their advisor. They can be rude, right? When they're in a stress position, I always say my I tempers my D. Thank goodness. They're impatient. When they're in a high level of stress, they're impatient. They're pushy. They dictate, can be conceited, can be arrogant, can be offensive, abrasive, and instead of being competitive, they can be ruthless. So when you know that about them, what skill set are you bringing to that table, whether they're a buyer or seller, is what I want you thinking about. How will you work with a D to manage them on that stress side? Okay, so that's your D. By the way, this is kind of rare air, if you will. Your Ds are, quite frankly, really truly a very small amount of the population. Now, in the luxury segment, you will deal with more Ds than on the average consumer, because these tend to be your C-suite folks, right? These are your CEOs, COOs. Your CFO is probably more of a C, honestly. And remember, they function like a D. So you're looking at your C-suite professionals typically are your Ds, right? And especially in the luxury segment. So where the average population, you'll see 5 to 10%. I think you're going to see 10 to 15 when you move into the luxury space. Okay. So I hope y'all found that. So what do they, let's talk about the I. The I, they want it to be fun. Okay. The home buying and home selling process is going to be fun. Or at least that's the way they want it. Whatever they do, they want it to be fun. Remember, they want to know who's going to be there, who's in the room, who lives in this neighborhood that I need to know, who needs to know me, right? That's your I. They need, typically, basic needs are going to be recognition and approval. Those are important to an I. Remember, they're an influencer. Their greatest fear is rejection. Their greatest fear is rejection. So your I types they like to be liked. They like to express their ideas. By the way, your appointments with I's and S's are going to be your longest appointments. Okay? And you've got to be careful if you are an I or have I tendencies not to get carried away. Y'all are going to have a blast. Okay? They love being a part of a group. They love social activities and recognition. What do they not like? Oh my gosh, I don't want to be bored. I need to know who's going to be at that event. Is this anybody I can relate to, or I probably don't want to be in that room? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that on behalf of I's. Okay. They don't want to be ridiculed. They don't like repetitive tasks. They don't like detailed work. Okay. Y'all getting a feel here on how you're going to approach your listing with these people? What they want? Fun. They want you to be upbeat. They want everything to be positive and everything enthusiastic. I have a feeling our I's were probably the most miserable during the lockdown. They were the first ones to orchestrate happy hour by Zoom. Okay? Because we had to find something fun. I had to. So when they're under control, when they're in the flow, they're optimistic. When they're in high stress, they're unrealistic. This is where your behavior management style's got to come in. They're persuasive. When they're highly stressed, they're manipulative. They get excited, but that excitement can be more emotional under high stress. They're communicative. The flip side of that is they can be gossipy. So be careful what you're sharing in the car, because they're going to ask you questions. Who lives here? If you just moved their boss into a certain neighborhood, they don't need to know where and what they pay, by the way. And they will ask, probably. Not direct. The D would ask you direct. The I would hint around. They're outgoing, talkative, involved, imaginative, warm, and friendly. Okay? This is the second largest group of people, are your eyes. S. They like to do things the easier way because remember, they like stability and their biggest fear is change. They are steady Eddie. They want status quo. They want everything to be even. Basic needs are appreciation, and the bigger word is security. Security. They like to work as a team. They like harmony. They like status quo. They like cooperation. They like sticking to what works. So when you go in with some of these mortgage hacks with an S, you better be careful. You had better have that mapped out like never before. It better be crystal clear. Okay? What they don't like: insensitivity, misunderstanding, being yelled at. By the way, I's and D's speak louder and faster. Got to be aware to ratchet it down a notch, I's and D's. Soften your tone. They don't like surprises. They don't like being pushed. Think about that one. Don't push me into selling. Give me all the information of why this is the best, most secure plan. And here's how it will work to get your home sold the least amount of time for the highest price and with great ease. That's what they're looking for. What do they want? They want people to be kind. They want you to be patient, predictable, and understanding. Be prepared to spend more time. This is the bulk of the population. Bulk of the population. C. Last one. Then let's talk how we're going to incorporate it. But you got to really key into what these are. Again, they're going to do it their way and they want to know how. Their questions: how are we going to achieve this? That's how I want you thinking with these people. How do we achieve this? Basic needs, highly detailed, high quality, and value on a C. They like to be right. They like clear instructions. Y'all, your process on getting their home sold needs to be very descriptive and in writing, and don't worry about it being too many things on that list. All right, just make sure you do it because it's got to be correct. Okay, they like established procedures. Tell me what to do, but don't criticize me. Lead me, don't direct me. They want to know what's expected, and they like finishing a task. These folks are great getting the home ready to go, but you got to tell them what to do, and then they'll do it. What they don't like: they don't want to be criticized, which none of us would do. They don't like mistakes, y'all. They're very unforgiving on mistakes. They don't like sudden changes. They don't like sloppy work, and they don't like unpreparedness. They want you to be accommodating, accurate, accountable, and here's the biggie: analytical. They want facts. They love graphs. Remember, they're the greatest information gatherer, and they like it factual. Numbers are factual. All right, the more numbers you can give them and then put it in a graph, or maybe give them actual numbers, then do another page with graphs, and then another page with all kinds of graphs. I mean, they love it. All right. So that is how you win a C. This is how you can picture them. They're orderly, logical, intense, curious, teachable, cautious, correct, questioning, conscientious, and precise. When they're stressed out, I'll hit the biggies. They're very critical, unsociable, easily offended, fearful, and prickly. All right, so we want to reduce their stress by giving them what? More information. Okay, more information. It just calms them down. This one, it says is anywhere from 20 to 25% of the population. I think it's more around that 20. But these are your engineers typically. These are your pilots typically, your accountants typically. In the luxury space, it's your CIOs, your CFOs. They've got a strong C piece. And again, remember, C and D's can overlap. All right, they can overlap. So when you take all this in and you think about this, what are some signs that you might be looking for if you haven't identified them? So if you're in an open house, some telltale signs, if you'll listen to the questions they ask, they'll give away their behavior style if you're really listening, right? Other things are, and I hate to say it because it's kind of a judgment thing, but until you get to know them, you're prejudging to a certain degree. The more flamboyant, they've got more I in their personality, okay? If they come in decked out with a great pop of color or a zebra jacket, or, you know, in the luxury space, this is where you're gonna see more with the designer shoes and designer bags, and then they're going to let you know about a designer piece they have on and where it was from, and that stuff's fun to them, right? Your D, if they come into the open house, they're going to be moving so fast, and quite frankly, they're probably going to be the hardest one to get their information from. All right, and that is because they don't want you to waste their time. They don't want you calling them, right? All those things that they determine is a waste of their time, or that you're going to take advantage of them. S's will linger in your open houses forever. And the first thing they want to do is look at all the pictures on the wall. Family is their key, by the way. All right? They want to look at all the pictures. The C is going to be more critical and more critical on clutter. So let me speak to that real quick. So let's say you go on a listing and you're trying to figure out these personality styles. With a D, you're going to do, I would think, it's up to you. All of y'all are fabulous at what you do. But with a D, I think a two-step listing presentation is probably the best with them, because it's going to make your appointment shorter. Send pertinent information in advance, so that they have it to look, and they're going to go through it quick, right? And then when you follow up, you're going to be very decisive with them on the pricing and timelines and what you're going to do to get the home sold, right? They want it do. When you go into a D's home, and if you're not sure, and by the way, if it's a couple, you might have an I that you're working with and a D. And you might have a D and an S and a C. So you've got to be aware of all of them, but there's telltale signs in the house, right? So when you walk into a house that's very organized and it starts at the curb, their landscape is typically very well done and organized. And what I'm going to say is more of a traditional landscape. Very well done, very groomed. It's very groomed. Manicured, professionally taken care of. You walk in, I'd say the house is similar. In the luxury space, they typically lean more towards traditional, more wood, more traditional lines. In the luxury space right now, I think what you would be seeing with your Ds is going to be more of that estate, traditional estate, but you're starting to see more transitional lines. So with the D, I think you'll see transitional and traditional. More woods are okay with the D. You might need to suggest some updates around some of that, but that is going to be more typical of a D. Their home will be organized and well maintained. It's not necessarily perfect. Like in their office, you might see stacks on the desk, but it's an organized scenario. Okay. You'll also see plaques on the walls, achievements. They like to win. You will see placards, you will see things, right, in the study. That's a D, I'm giving you quick now. On the I, the seller will probably greet you with a hug maybe, right, depending on how many phone conversations you've had. And it's going to be loud, hi, come on in, oh, I'm so excited, right? In the front, there will probably be more color in the landscape. You will have a less traditional pot for the flowers for your landscape. It'll be a little less traditional. It's going to be more modern lines, modern to transitional and luxury. And it will have more updated, more current furnishings. And somewhere in there will be a loud pop of color. And that will either be in the artwork or a special piece. And let's say that the trend is what we're seeing, and it's all, let's just go with this, gray and white, and then a pop of blue, light fixtures mixed in the different metals. But in their dining room, there will be a fabulous loud crystal piece probably, because there's got to be a pop of something different. Okay. It will be beautiful. It will be trendy. The S, again, the majority is going to be comfortable, and you're going to see more of a mix. And again, you don't typically see a heavy modern or contemporary. You're going to see more of a transitional and traditional. You'll see a mix of furnishings, more antiques that were handed down that have a meaning. Not worried about who had the same thing. It's more about the meaning behind the pieces, and they tend to always have a gallery wall of family photos. All right, and you'll notice it's very lived in. Like I look at Mark Benson's screen up there, and that's more indicative. That could be an I or a D, right? It's not, I don't believe that's an S background. Okay, so just when you start really watching these behavior styles, you're going to start seeing this plain as day. All right. By the way, when you greet an S seller, when you walk up to the door, be prepared to shake their hand and welcome you in. Don't approach them too fast. They need to let you in. They're reserved. They don't like change. They don't know you yet. But once they know you and you've earned their trust, you've got a friend for life and a raving fan. Okay. Your C, when you enter that house, that's the one that if they have carpet, you see the lines and they're correct. Okay. They probably right now, especially in the luxury space, it's going to be more of a stone in the gray family and very stark. And you will see a more contemporary furniture and it will be furnished more sparsely. When you open the pantry door, every jar imaginable is going to be labeled. Same thing in the closet. All right. I think we've got a good overview. How are we going to use more of this in our business? First thing, and I need to hurry here, we're at 10:45. I want y'all thinking about what you're saying when you're in the home with them. Let's say you already have these appointments and you're going on them. This is where I think your luxury knowledge, when you're with the D for sure, one of your bullet points is going to always be the numbers with them, right? You want to be able to share the facts, reiterate that they are a highly savvy business person, and that they've had a chance to review the information. But this is where the market is correcting. It's not crashing, but it's the good old supply and demand, Mr. Seller. The longer you wait, the more it's going to correct. And prices right now are not correcting up. Okay, they understand that. That is direct without being rude. All right, they need to understand that. The longer you wait, the less money you're going to make, is what I just said, right? And it's based on business principles of supply and demand. The other thing, you want to bullet point this out, right? And give them your plan. This is going to be your marketing plan. This is what I'm going to do for you. Based on these numbers, this is where we should end up. If we're priced here, we should sell in this amount of time. If not, we'll adjust our plan this way. Okay? You want to acknowledge the fine qualities in the home, but move through that quicker. Acknowledge the special things. When you're on a listing presentation or with a buyer that's a high I, you want to be pointing out, this is a fabulous neighborhood. If it's a buyer, this is a fabulous neighborhood. I know you said that you wanted to be involved in a neighborhood that's very active, that has a lot of social events. You want to mention that to the eye. They're very interested in that. They want to know when you approach the home what the landscaping is and why that's unusual, right? Well, this is a very unusual tree here. This is a mountain laurel. These are very expensive. These are exclusive. You don't see it in every neighborhood. It's more typical in a neighborhood like this, right? Because they're picturing themselves there. The other thing with them is you want to talk about the amenities, especially in luxury. It does make a difference. This is where you need to know the difference between quartz and quartzite. By the way, the S will love quartz. Why? Because of its antibacterial properties, which is safe with the family, and it's easy to keep clean. C will like that too. I want quartzite if they can have it. It's more dramatic, right? It's natural stone, it has different veins. They want to know about the appliance package from a trend perspective. Your other personality are going to want to know it from a factual why it's an advantage. So you need to be familiar not just with the amenities, but the features of them and the benefits. Okay. So again, your S's, you're going to spend more time talking to them about why this is a great decision right now, why it's the safest bet. Here's our plan of action over the next 30 to 90 days. Give them time to process. Okay. I want you to look at your, I'm sorry, I'm trying to hurry. In your marketing, this is key. Is all of your marketing one behavior style? I want you to double down in your database. By going in your database, look at your past clients. I would identify them by personality types. Okay? When you send something out, if you're doing a monthly newsletter, I would have segments in it that attract the eye of your D, your I, your S, and your C. And y'all know how to do that now. You know what they're looking for. Your D will be attracted to bullet points. They want to know what the market's doing overall. They don't need a national view. They need a local view, their neighborhood. Give me the facts. How do I win? Okay. And by winning, I mean, how do I get the most money for my house in the shortest amount of time? Right? So you look for all the reasons, bullet point why someone would want to sell now. Feature a testimony about an area in your market, especially if there's a celebrity that moved in that area. Highlight that in your newsletter for your eyes. They also want to know that you know these people. right? The who. And then your S's, do a family piece. Maybe that is where you throw in a recipe, if any of you are still doing recipes on cards, but that's who that attracts, right? And then add a graph that speaks to the market. Now you're encompassing a piece that will be attractive to every personality type. Go back in your database, look at your event calendar, and invite by personality type. Start designing your events on purpose. Some are going to be, who's going to be more prone to come to an informational seminar? Your C's.
The C.
Your C's, and maybe some of your S's if they're bored, because they might just want to come gather some information and learn more. I'd like to learn more about it, but your C's and S's would love that. Now, if you're going to feature a well-known person in the community, invite your I's, because they'll be impressed with who you just invited. But they're going to have more fun if you do an event. Say you want to host an open house and you've got a vacant builder's home you want to showcase, bring in several artists and create an art gallery showing. And invite all your I's. They will love it. Okay, so start making this more interesting. Plan your events based on personality style. Do a think tank of your CEOs, your COOs. It's an intimate event. Don't invite your S's. They're not going to enjoy that. Now, I's will interrupt the whole time. So when you start looking at it like this, dig into this database and really mine it, and mine it different. And I would tell you, it will make it more fun for you, because that's that I am. It's got to be a little bit fun. So I just think we can get more creative. I think once you know these behavior styles, your scripts become much more powerful because you're thinking through them and making it personal for that person in front of you. Okay, and you'll pick up on who they are the more you talk to them. And then once you see their house, when you do your buyer analysis, your buyer consultation, you're going to get a real healthy feel for who's what. And typically they're more than one. Okay, so I will end there because I can keep going, but I don't have time for questions.
I mean, we can listen to you all day. It is
Well,
amazing.
I would hate for you to.
No, this was one of the best disc classes we've had. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Well,
Leslie. Amazing.
Here's one thing I would recommend. As a market center, I used to do this once a month. In the training room, I would host a skit. And we would take the top performers from the previous month and we would role play, and it would be real play is what I like to call it. But we would do a skit of a seller and a buyer of the different personality styles and what you might say on a listing, what you would say with the buyer. And y'all, it is more fun. And I would encourage you to take this old school basic back to your market center or back to your team and have some fun with this.
Leslie, amazing information. There's a question here from Boucher, someone M. Boucher. What's a good opening question to help determine the type when you first meet someone, especially by phone on cold calls? Any questions in mind?
Well, you're going to start if it's a buyer or a seller. So you would do your normal questions. You're going to listen for their tone. Are they speaking fast? Are they speaking loud? If they're loud and fast, they're typically a D or an I. Now, this is not 100%, but it gives you an idea. If they're soft-spoken, if they want to know more about the market in general, right? Like, tell me what the numbers are. There's probably a D or a C, right? If it's a longer conversation, it's probably an S or a C because they're gathering information, right? So you would just ask your normal questions.
Okay.
Right, so I thank you for contacting our website. I noticed you were inquiring about 123 Main Street. Tell me what attracted you most to this home. And I'm listening, right? Oh, that's interesting. Do you mind me asking where you live now? Oh, in such a, what do you like most about that neighborhood? Or why are you interested in this area? And they'll start giving you telltale signs.
Great feedback. And there's another question here in the chat. What do you do when there's two different personality styles, that, like a couple with two different, any way that you would navigate that?
Yes. First thing is awareness, right? They will most likely be different styles. They most likely will be. So when you answer things, like I might turn to the D and say, you know, what I love about this is the appreciation rate in this neighborhood is X, Y, and Z for these reasons, right? And we're in the master bathroom. Oh my gosh, do you, with the eye, do you love this tub? I mean, this is amazing work here. Look at the backsplash. You know, the last time I sold in this neighborhood, they came in from LA. They loved this and that and that. You see what I'm saying? You're still going to talk, you're going to bring up things that both of them are going to relate to.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When communicating with a D, I find when I'm cold calling, I get a D. That's like my weak link. Like, oh gosh, I got a D on the phone here. How can you, what tips can you give us to, if we're not a D necessarily, with a high-end home, what can we do to be in rapport with them faster on the phone, would you say?
You need to mirror and match, right? Hey, I want to thank you, Jason, for taking my call. I really appreciate it. I know your time is so valuable and I don't want to waste it. I love working with people like you that know what they want. And obviously you've been questioning whether or not it's the right time to sell your home. Well, you understand the business, and supply and demand. Here is why I think it's critical for us to visit, because the market is correcting, it's not correcting up. Right?
Nice.
Like, get into it, acknowledge who they are respectfully, right? I know you are busy and I appreciate that. I am the same way myself. And I want to make sure that we maximize your time, right? Here's what I would like to approach you with. I understand your home expired. I am confident I can get your home sold quickly. And I would like to share with you my marketing plan and all the market stats today. Can we get together tomorrow? I won't take more than 30 minutes of your time.
Great. Thank you.
Right?
Awesome.
Adi wants you to get it on.
Great.
You know what I think is interesting, Leslie? You said everybody in our industry and all of our peers, they think they're a D. Like I always hear people saying, well, I'm a high D, I'm a high D. And then you said that there's a low percentage of Ds out there. So self-perception is an interest, and I'm still struggling because I feel like I've bounced around where I used to be a really strong I, and as I've gotten older and more confident in my position in life, I've changed. And so I feel that your self-interpretation of who you are sometimes is not accurate.
I love that, Jen. Thank you for saying that. I think we could all really say that to a certain degree. And here's the thing, you have your true behavior style and a learned behavior style. And you think of your learned behavior style, if you will, as say you were on a blind date for the first time and that's who you kind of show up as, right? And then the stress hits and then your real self comes out. Right. So that's why it's important to understand your predominant behavior style, but behavior styles, you are who you are, but then some are learned based on over time. Like I was much more of a high I, and throughout my career, because it required it, there was more D. Then I began to actually notice I do have a lot of D traits and that the I just softens it, right? But when it's time to go, it is time to go. So my I enables me to say it different. But we're all evolving.
Totally, yes. Hey, somebody asked about the DISC assessments, and I know there's several, Tony Robbins, but I'm just wondering if you mentioned that you have some links or some recommendations, if you want to send them to Anjali or myself and we'll share them. Or we do have a new Facebook group, and maybe it depends, let's take that offline, Leslie, I'll follow up. But to answer the question, we will follow up either on Facebook or with an email with the recommendations for taking the DISC analysis.
Well, I appreciate everyone's time. Again, this I'm sure is a repeat for all of you, but I think these are skills that we need to repeat and really lean into. It will make your listing presentation more effective. It will make your buyer consultation more effective. And for those of you with it will actually make it more fun.
Gotcha.
That was just fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time to enlighten us and give us a refresher course. And I still learned a lot, even though I'm a psychology student and all of that. I still learned so much on this call. So thank you so much, Leslie.
My pleasure. I wish everyone the best 2023, y'all. We've got a great opportunity this year.
Yeah, it's exciting. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Thank you, Leslie, for joining us. As a reminder, our next call is the first Wednesday of February, which is also the first day of February, so February 1st. And I'm going to put these links back in here, but as we grow the Facebook group that we have, it seems to me like the easiest way to communicate with you guys. So make sure you are clicking on and subscribing to the Facebook link for follow-ups and recordings. We have a YouTube channel where we post all of the videos so you can view them, share them with your teams and things like that. Lots of thank yous coming in for Leslie. If anybody wants to come off mute and keep chatting, we'll stick around for a few minutes.
And now everyone's shy.
And thank you all very much.
Can you hear maybe one or two ahas, maybe in the chat box there that really resonated with you folks, or maybe say it? What are one or two nuggets that you got from Leslie in the last hour? Because a lot of great content there.
I'm going to say something.
Please go right ahead, Sharon Arsenault in Houston.
Hey, so I wanted to say this is really helpful when it comes to adapting to the specific client's needs and tailoring it. I think that they'll really appreciate it. And so it means that, your listing presentation is not necessarily one size fits all. And it doesn't have to be 45 minutes. It can be, relatively short if you adapt it to, your client. And I think that is really helpful. And one of the things that I learned today was she was describing a C, which is, and I'm high D, I'm high DI. And one of my clients that I encountered last year was the first time I dealt with a client with this type of personality. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, just relating to her. And she just wanted me to completely take charge. Even when I've tried to provide her with information, she wanted me to just drive the ship or, basically. So me being able to recognize what type of client that I'm dealing with will help put me in a better position to, have some more flexibility and help them the way that they desire to be helped.
Awesome feedback. Thank you for sharing that, Sharon. Really good. Yeah.
By the way, it's authentic. People worry about, gosh, is this making me phony? If anything, it's making you more authentic because you are appreciating how they're wired. Okay, then you're adapting your style, right? There's nothing worse than showing an eye a bunch of graphs and going into more explanation than is necessary. They're just going to turn you off. It's same thing when you're negotiating. Your personality styles, you need to be aware of them so that you negotiate effectively based on how that agent is going to communicate with their client. Okay, Suzanne, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, this was fascinating. I mean, I've taken DISC assessments and I've been taught it, but never with this level of detail and when they're in the flow and then when things are going wrong. And I was just reflecting back on some listing presentations I had last year, 2 decision makers, but for one, I was talking to the wife a really long time, an expired luxury listing, and she invited me to their villa in Italy, and I went in and she said, I just want you to meet my husband. And I thought I had it in the bag. And then he was a super high D, but C, and asked for something that, she had not asked for. And I did not get it. And I'd been speaking to her for a year. And I thought, wow, that was a really, very humbling. And so I'm thinking back, if I had cut to the chase more when he was in the room, I might have gotten it. So good, very good learning. Thank you so much.
That was a good learning moment right there.
Yeah.
Thank you. But real quickly, by the way, in your listing presentation, that's another advantage of a two-step, because you can send all the information. If they're not a C, they can throw it away, right? But at least they have all the data in advance. The other thing is when you're working with all these personality types, think about the leverage you have with all of your luxury listings going on the Wall Street Journal's digital platform. Now, your D will be attracted to the fact that, call it an 80-20 rule, 80% of your readership is domestic on the Wall Street Journal, okay? And it's about business, then real estate. The Mansion Global piece for your luxury listings, that is luxury lifestyle and real estate, then business. That's your high I piece, but you're tackling both people in that room by mentioning both.
Interesting.
It's a thought.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Just curious, Leslie, have you ever come across someone who's off the charts in all DISC? Because I saw that DISC result one time on someone that I did a DISC assessment to, and it's I've never seen or heard of that. Is that a possibility?
Yes. I had an agent who is one of the most wonderful people in the world. And she was what I call a flatliner, because it was just even all the way across. And I just enjoyed her for who she was, and just kind of expected, I had to just match her and what her emotional, what I want to say, it depended on what her mood was like that day. I knew who was going to show up and who could potentially show up.
So she was high on the D, high on the I, high on the S, and high on the C, all four.
It was kind of more not high. It was all above the line, like, there's a line, right, where you're high and low in different things. They were all above the line even.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about somebody who's off the charts. This person was 10 out of 10 in all the D, I, S, and C, which I didn't think was possible.
Pretty close to that.
Gotcha. Okay.
It also made me think there was a mistake.
Yes. Okay. Good to
But
know.
it was proven with her. But I mean, I had 650 agents. There was one that had that.
Yeah.
Andrea,
Excellent.
were you going to add something to that?
Actually was. Jason, it's a great question. That generally, when you find those readings that are consistent, that means that was actually an adaptive, that they were adapting to the questions that when they were taking the test to achieve those results. And what I will share with you, and Leslie would share the same, is that then you need to see what their moods are like, because you can only hold an adaptive state for a period of time. Adaptive is not natural. So the results that you would have received, those high level results in all area would have been an adaptive, almost manufactured type of response to taking the DISC, versus if they were taking the DISC in a relaxed basis. Typically speaking, Leslie, we know that we want people to take, similarly when they're taking the KPA, you want them to be taking that in a relaxed state. So when you're taking the DISC, you want to be in a relaxed state, because that will be indicative of the true natural behavior style. Just the same as we as salespeople, and the best of the best of the best of the best, which this group certainly is, we're going to mirror and match and modify, adapt our behavior. In other words, even adapt our DISC profile to meet the person on their level that we're engaging with. It's a great question, Jason.
Thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate your feedback. Excellent. Thank you for that. Any other ahas, questions, while we have wonderful, knowledgeable Lesli Akers on with us? We know her time is valuable. Thank you so much for setting this up, Anjali, by the way.
Oh, my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you, Leslie, for giving us your time. And thank you all for attending. And the recording will be there because I know all of you are going to go back and want to watch this again and take more notes. So join us again next month, the 1st of February. How are we already in talking about February 2023? Oh, time flies. Well, have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.